What's up, guys? It is Tommy here from Saleslucky.com, and today's video is about how I convinced my employer to let me work remotely from Medellin, Colombia. What was supposed to be a 4-month trip turned out to be a year-long life-changing trip for me, and just the idea of working abroad, working remotely, where you're earning dollars and spending pesos or spending yen or whatever it might be, is awesome. You know, it's awesome. Your living expenses are lower. It's fun. You get to experience other cultures, different foods and whatnot. So it was an amazing experience all around. And this video is meant to share with you how I did it, share with you what I did exactly to convince my employer to let me work abroad remotely while I was doing sales. So there's really 6 steps here. I'm going to go over the condensed version in this video. In the details below, you're going to see a link to my blog, saleslucky.com, where you'll be able to see the 6 steps written out in detail, exactly how I did this, okay? But in short, there's 6 steps. 1, which is the most important one, I worked my ass off for 3.5 years building a pipeline and a reputation for myself. So just a quick breakdown. If I didn't do this part, the entire trip would not have happened. I spent 3.5 years busting my ass building a pipeline, working every day, learning sales, learning the space that I was in, which was selling into procurement. So it's really the foundation, really the work that made this whole thing possible, okay? So busting your ass every day to build up a reputation for yourself as somebody who gets the job done, okay? Number 2, become one of the top performers. So by putting in the work and getting the job done and studying outside of work hours on my own time, studying the craft of sales, studying my VP's calls with me, listening to the calls, transcribing entire client calls, and then annotating these calls. Over a span of 3 years or so, I became one of the top reps. I went from the youngest rep hired within 3.5 years or so to one of the top reps, top 10% of the company, within a floor of about 50 reps. And again, almost everybody had more experience, was older than I was, but it was because of the work and the sacrifice and the commitment that allowed me to become one of the top reps, okay? And this is what you want to understand, is that before you can reap the benefits of whether it's asking your employer to work remotely from a different country, whether it's Europe, Colombia, or wherever, you need to plant the seeds and you need to sow the crop, okay? You need to plant and put in the work before you can reap the harvest. So number 3 was I built up trust with my employer. What it did was, by showing up every day and busting my butt, over time becoming a top performer, I was able to build up trust with my employer. I went again from somebody who had a minimal amount of professional B2B sales experience to outperforming most of the people in that company. And that gave me a reputation of somebody who got the job done, somebody who's not afraid to do the work, and it built up a lot of trust with my employer, which is point number 3. Put in the work, become a top performer, and what it does is build trust with the employer. Do the right thing. Put in the work. Show yourself as somebody who is not afraid to do the work and is able to get the job done. Now, because within that company, it was selling to procurement people, procurement professionals who are professional negotiators and professional buyers, it was a difficult sell. And because of that, it was difficult to train and sales reps effectively, because you needed to know about procurement, you needed to be good at sales to be able to make it. And what happened was that created a situation where about 20% of the sales reps were generating 80% of the revenue. So it's the classic Pareto's principle, 20% of your activity generating 80% of the results. That's what happened across the sales floor. So the people who were performing it made them incredibly valuable to the company. And this is step 4, which is create leverage. If you've done all those things up until this point, what you're doing is creating leverage, because if you're one of the top performers and the top 20% of reps are generating 80% of the revenue, and you fall within that group, then it makes you incredibly valuable, and it almost makes you as somebody who the company cannot lose, okay? Makes you indispensable in a lot of ways. And only once those things were in place, where I worked my ass off, became one of the top performers, built up trust with my employer, created leverage, and made myself indispensable, only then did I make the ask. And I was very clear on my ask. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to live in Medellin, Colombia. I wanted to live and work from Colombia. And you know what? And this is a message to you out there. You know, if this is something that you really want to do and you really feel passionate about, this brings us to step number 6. You want to be able to be willing to walk. What do I mean by that? You want to be able to be willing to walk away if they say no. So I'll explain. I was in a mindset where I wanted this so bad, and I wanted to do this so much, where I didn't care if my employer said yes or no. If they said yes, awesome, let's do it. I'll go over there. I'm gonna continue performing. And if they said no, I told my manager that, hey, look, you know, she asked me what would I do if they said no. I said, hey, look, you know, I'm somebody who, if I really want to do something and I set my heart on something, I'm just gonna do it, one way or another. And that's my message to you is, if you feel like this is something you really want to do, you're really passionate about, and this is something that you would regret if you didn't get a chance to do, then I would highly consider figuring out a way where you can do it one way or another, and you put yourself in a position where you are able to walk. Obviously, everyone has different life situations, but again, if this is something that you feel is incredibly important to you and you would regret later down in life if you didn't do it, I would suggest highly figuring out a way to where you can do that thing regardless. And what that does is it puts you in a position where you're going to do that thing regardless. And what that does is it makes you even more valuable to your employer. It gives you the leverage when it comes to making that ask and quote unquote in that negotiation. And you know, there's a book that I recently read which is called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, and it's a story about this young lady in her 20s who was figuring out her life. She was working as a hospice worker or something like that, you know, working with people who were on their deathbeds, who were close to dying, taking care of these people. And she realized after working with many of them that the number one regret people had was they wished they had the courage to live a life that was true to themselves and be themselves. And that really struck me, because I realized, hey, if people were getting into their later years and on their deathbeds, the biggest regret they had in life was that they wished they were able to live a life that was true to them and actually do what they wanted to do in life. I thought to myself, fuck that. I'm going to go do what I want right now. I'm going to make sure that I set myself up so that I do what I want to do and live the life that I want to live. And I highly recommend, if you feel passionate about something and you really believe in something, and again, if you would regret if you didn't do something, that you take action to figure out how you can put yourself in that position so you do that thing, so that you don't end up as one of those people who on their deathbeds are regretting things that they didn't have a chance to do. So just a quick video. I want to share with you exactly how I convinced my employer to let me work remotely from Medellin, Colombia. Again, 6 steps as a recap. 1, I worked my ass off for 3.5 years. Really took me about 2 years to start hitting my stride there. Bust my ass for 3.5 years building up a reputation and a pipeline for myself. Number 2, became one of the top performers. Number 3, built up trust with my employer because of those things I did. 4, created leverage, aka made myself indispensable. 5, made the ask. And 6, I was willing to walk. All right. For a more detailed explanation and description of exactly how I did this, click the link in the description below, and you'll be able to check out my blog article on my website, saleslucky.com. All right, guys. If you found value in this video, please share it. Please tell a friend, and I hope you have a great day.